Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is speaking at the moment. The opposition leader Peter Dutton spoke a short time ago. Here's the PM. We'll take you live there now.
The voices of those who survived and the voices of those who spoke up against this horrific of all horrific crimes throughout history. But the fact that Abe is able to be with us here today with his presence and his words is, I think, quite extraordinary. And the fact that Holocaust survivors continue to educate young people. What this museum's about is making sure that that will continue for decades ahead. I am very grateful to be here for the invitation to open the Melbourne Holocaust Museum. It is an honour as great as it is solemn, and its importance cannot be overstated, especially right now. This museum stands because we must never forget the Holocaust, not the scale of it, not the depths of its cruelty, a savagery that was long in the planning and cold in its calculation. It is to the great credit of all who shared the vision for this museum, the architects who made it possible and the builders who made it real. Within its walls, quiet dignity coexists with awful truths, each one of them giving meaning to the words we keep repeating: never again. Those are words that stand on the foundation of memory. But memory must be a conscious act, as this museum is. Like a flame, memory must be carefully tended and nurtured, and it must be passed on. In the words of that great scholar of Judaism, Jacob Neusner, civilization hangs suspended from generation to generation by the gossamer strand of memory. If only one cohort of mothers and fathers fails to convey to its children what it has learned from its parents, then the great chain of learning and wisdom snaps. If the guardians of human knowledge stumble only one time, in their fall collapses the entire edifice of knowledge and understanding. Well, the guardians of knowledge have been so sure-footed right here. For many Australians, the Holocaust is family history, and it of course became part of our own nation's story. Some 9,000 Jewish refugees from Central Europe found asylum in Australia before the outbreak of World War II. Among them was Gerda Cohen, the grandmother of the member for McNamara, Josh Burns, and the composer George Dreyfus, who was the father of the Attorney-General, Mark Dreyfus. And I'm very pleased to say that George is here with us today. We consider how much that generation alone has contributed to the story of modern Australia. Then consider the contribution that generations of Jews have made to Melbourne, the city that is home to the highest per capita population of Holocaust survivors outside of Israel. Acts of philanthropy, humanity and generosity, all driven by a powerful instinct to elevate and expand the life of this great multicultural city. It is an instinct that has been coupled with an equally innate desire to support community and support education, nourishing the aspirations of the next generation. Then consider how much the Holocaust robbed from the world. How much energy, how much potential, how much inspiration and talent. Such a vast multitude of life. Along with 6 million Jews, a number that falls across the decades like a shadow, this museum tells the story of the other victims of the Nazi regime. There was no pity, no mercy, no humanity. The scale of what happened, of what was done, what was perpetrated, means that for Jewish people especially, the Holocaust is not softened by the passing of time. It does not recede into history. It does not offer the one slender comfort of distance. Since the atrocities of the terrorist action by Hamas on October 7. Jewish Australians have been bearing a pain you should never have had to bear again. And you are feeling fear, anxious that the long shadows of the past have crept into the present. That should not be happening in a land that offered refuge then and embraces you now. As the conflict continues, anti-Semitism is on the rise, but we will not let it find as much as a foothold here. Australia will always denounce it and reject it utterly, just as we do all forms of racism and prejudice. And I note that wherever racism has raised its head, if you look for the leaders of those campaigning and speaking out against it, it is the Jewish community that consistently do that. My government is acting to make it clear there is no place in Australia for symbols that glorify the horrors of the Holocaust. And there is no place for those who seek to profit from the trade in these evil symbols or use them to promote their hatred. We owe it to our multicultural society, our Jewish community and our survivors. I turn to the words of Holocaust survivor Peter Gaspar, who lost 40 members of his extended family. 40. And I quote, "The Holocaust didn't start with gas chambers and murders and executions. It started with stereotyping, prejudice, discrimination, hate speech. Those are words to heed each and every single day." What the Holocaust Museum so powerfully reminds us is that when we maintain meaningful contact with the past, we give ourselves our best chance of ensuring it doesn't become our future. To make the words ring true as we repeat them, never again. This museum keeps memory alive for every visitor who steps through its doors. It's an honour to be with you here today, and it's an honour to officially declare the new refurbished museum here open today. Thanks very much.
Anthony Albanese there at the reopening of the Melbourne Holocaust Museum. It's been an institution in Melbourne for a long time, as Anthony Albanese, the Prime Minister, said there. Important to keep the memory alive of what happened so as to not repeat it, and saying that calling out racism will continue to be a feature of his government.